We're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by Dr. Sherif Amir, Professor of International Relations. Dr. Sherif, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us this afternoon. And of course, during his speech before the climate change session, our Foreign Minister, Sameh Shoukry, was interested in providing, further funding from major countries to achieve the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. What do you see are some of the most important points that the Foreign Minister spoke about in his address, sir?
Well, the most important thing is Africa. It's a continent full of resources, and we all know now that many countries like Niger, like Burkina Faso, are very rich with the renewable energy, like the uranium.
Yes.
So these countries in Africa must stay and have a good share of the contribution of the Western countries who have neglected for decades, if not centuries, the situation in this continent.
Yes.
I think now that with all the crisis we're living in, they have to focus on developing projects of renewable energy in these countries. The idea of neocolonialism, or of exploiting the resources of these countries and then take what's the benefit for the industrial activity in Europe. It's not anymore something that will help the environment, help Europe, or help even the world.
Yes.
So we have to emphasize that Africa has a new voice now, a strong voice that reclaims its presence and its recognition among the nations.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Sherif, of course, as Egypt held the COP27 climate conference in the Red Sea resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh in November of last year, how do you see some of the main outcomes of this very important meeting that was held in Egypt, and of course the importance of holding the 27th followed by the 28th climate summits, both which will also be in two Arab countries, Egypt and the Emirates?
Well, let me tell you frankly what the circumstances during the COP27 were very, very harsh, because it was amid, still, the Russian military operation in Ukraine. There were many divisions. European countries and the Western hemisphere, they were not interested in giving any promises, because they were focused on the funding of on fueling the armed struggle in Ukraine, and that's what they're doing now. And Egypt used to say this is a waste of time, because this conflict should be resolved peacefully on the negotiations table, not on the battlefield.
Absolutely.
And they didn't listen. So unfortunately, until now, COP27 didn't achieve real results because of the attitude of the Western bloc.
Yes, and we've seen as well calls by, lots of leaders during the COP27 to encourage developed nations to fulfill their pledges that they have done, whether in financial pledges or pledges to decrease their reliance on non-renewable sources of energy, which worsen the situation of global warming. How important do you see this call for these pledges to be fulfilled, especially for developing nations that have struggled the most because of the consequences of climate change, even though they are the least contributors to this phenomenon?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. Climate change now is being it's being a tool used by many superpowers to implement or to pressure other developing countries. They took their share in destroying the environment, and now when emerging countries like China, like India, and even countries in the Middle East and Africa started to work on their own economy, they just brought up this issue of climate change suddenly. Why they're doing that? They're hindering the development of these countries. So unfortunately, it's used as a political tool, and it's very evil. That's why we have seen the countries in Africa and in sub-Saharan countries like Burkina Faso, like Niger, like Gabon, who have all these resources, rebelled against this kind of tutor or something, we'll call it the neocolonialism, by dictating them that you should respect this and that in order to respect and preserve the energy and preserve the environment. Well, they rebelled against all that, and we have seen new voices in Africa. So, unfortunately, if the case is true, which is climate change, well, it shouldn't be used as a political tool. When it suits the West, it's used against other nations, and when it doesn't suit them, they just don't give any money, they don't pay any attention because it doesn't suit their interests. Mm-hmm. So it's a political tool now. They should realize that it cannot go on like that.
Indeed. Dr. Sherif, now the Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry also in his address pointed to the importance of, sustainable development in preventing conflicts, averting crises also, and lots of countries, including Egypt, have started working on issues related to renewable sources of energy, etc., in their sustainable development agendas. How important do you see such steps for this situation, Doctor?
Well, we have seen countries like Egypt, like Saudi Arabia now, talking about what we call it, the renewable energy,
yes.
Nuclear plants. We all know that this would take time, it costs money, but we have to go through it. We have to cooperate with the countries who would help us freely without any blackmail in the future. So this is a national security issue. It's not only related to the environment, it's related to the development, the economic development of countries. In Egypt, we have this project from years ago, and hopefully in the coming month of October, we will start inaugurating the new nuclear plant in El Baba,
yes.
with the partnership of our friends in Russia. So I think that this will be a great achievement, and it will be a sign to the all African nations that everyone can do it. There is it's not only reserved for developed countries, it will be for everyone.
Absolutely.
But the political will should be always present.
Indeed. Dr. Sherif, as you said, Egypt is rich and a rich source of renewable energy, of wind and solar as well, aside from your mentioning of the nuclear energy. How does this qualify Egypt, in your opinion, to be one of the biggest producers of such sources of renewable energy and enable it to have chances of establishing promising investments in this field as well as collaborations with other countries?
Well, we all know that we are facing now new challenges, economic challenges, geopolitical challenges. Things are getting more and more complicated, but this is how countries and powers, regional powers like Egypt, build their reputation. We are trying to make the West and many countries to understand that we have a sovereign decision to exploit our own resources. We are open to all kinds of investment, whether from our partners in the EU or our future partners in the BRICS. We will work with everyone. We will deal with everyone. We have our own national interests, and this is what every country is doing on the planet Earth. Every country is working according to its national interests.
Indeed.
So we will do that. We will exploit our solar energy, with whom they will offer us the help. We will do the same thing with the nuclear energy, with the wind energy, with the gas fields. We will do all that according to our national security and national interest. The question is time, and we have to be aware that there is a competition, a huge regional competition now between countries like Turkey, like Saudi Arabia, like the Emirates, and we have to find our place as soon as possible to be one of the major producers of these renewable energy.
Indeed, right. Dr. Sherif Amir, Professor of International Relations, thank you very much, sir, for your time and your insight and for joining us on today's edition of Cairo Local Time. Ladies and gentlemen, a short break, and we'll be right back to continue our episode. Do stay tuned.